steer,
steer,
steer, steer, steer.
steer, steer, steer.
You can steer yourself in any direction you choose.
You can steer yourself in any direction you choose.
Use two hands to steer the car.
Use two-hander to steer the car.
My companion found it necessary to warn me frequently to steer to the right or left, when I imagined I was following, correctly, the windings of the road.
My companion found it necessary to warn me frequently to steer to the right or left, when I imagined I was following correctly the winding of the road.
Cardboard,
Cardboard,
cardboard, cardboard, cardboard.
cardboard, cardboard, cardboard.
Thanks to my mother, not a single cardboard box has found its way back into society. We receive gifts in boxes from stores that went out of business 20 years ago.
Thanks to my mother, not a single cardboard box has found its way back into society. We received gifts in the box from stores that went out of the business 20 years ago.
The students used cardboard to build a small city.
The students used cardboard to build a small city.
He held up a piece of white cardboard about the size of a sheet of notepaper.
He held up the piece of the white cardboard about the size of the sheet of the notepaper.
Mount,
Mount,
mount, mount, mount.
mount, mount, mount.
A hypocrite is the kind of politician who would cut down a redwood tree, then mount the stump and make a speech for conservation.
The hypocrite is kind of the politician who would cut down a redwood tree, then mount the stem and make a speech for conservation.
It took multiple attempts to successfully mount the horse.
It took multiple attempts to successful mount of the horse.
I mean that we must mount them on horses in their earliest youth, and when they have learned to ride, take them on horseback to see war. The horses must not be spirited and warlike, but the most tractable and yet the swiftest that can be had. I mean that we must mount them on horses in their earliest youth, and when they have learned to ride, take them on horseback to see war. The horses must not be spirited and warlike, but the most tractable and yet the swiftest that can be had. Mist,
Mist,
mist, mist, mist.
mist, mist, mist.
I do not ask for the riches that perish or the fame that fades away like a morning mist.
I do not ask for the rich that vanish or fame that fade away like a morning mist.
A mist hung over the lake.
A mist hang over the lake.
A mist hung over the lake.
A mist hang over the lake.
It was nearly noon when I arrived at the top of the ascent. For some time I sat upon the rock that overlooks the sea of ice. A mist covered both that and the surrounding mountains.
It was nearly noon, but I arrived at the top of the ascent. For some time I sat on the rock that overlooked the sea of ice. A mist covered over that and the surrounding mountain.
Necessary,
Necessary,
necessary, necessary, necessary.
necessary, necessary, necessary.
To one who has faith, no explanation is necessary. To one without faith, no explanation is possible.
To one who was paid, no explanation is necessary. To one without faith, no explanation is possible.
Drinking adequate water is necessary for a healthy diet.
Drinking adequate water is necessary for a healthy diet.
Drinking adequate water is necessary for a healthy diet.
Drinking adequate water is necessary for a healthy diet.
It is necessary that the reasoner should be able to utilize all the facts.
It is necessary that the reasoner should be able to utilize all the facts.
Made.
made,
Made. Made. Made.
made, made, made.
Vacuuming is great. I do the laundry. I love washing machines. I'm the maid in my house.
Vacuum is great. I do laundry. I love the washing machine. I'm the maid in my house.
The maid deep cleaned the entire house.
The maid deep cleaned the entire house.
The maid soon returned and showed him into a small and scantily furnished drawing room, in which portraits of Professor Valerius and old Dai hung on opposite walls.
The maid soon returned and showed him into small and security drawing room, in which portraits of the professional volunteer and old man hang on the positive wall.
Skeleton.
Skeleton.
Skeleton. Skeleton. Skeleton.
Skeleton. Skeleton. Skeleton.
I was a skeleton compared to what I used to be, but it didn't matter. Nothing really mattered except remaining unbroken.
I was a skeleton compared to what I used to be, but it didn't matter. Nothing really mattered except remained unbroken.
The science teacher had a large, fake skeleton in his classroom.
The science teacher has a large fake skeleton in his classroom.
Never had Buck seen such dogs. It seemed as though their bones would burst through their skins. They were mere skeletons, draped loosely in draggled hides, with blazing eyes and slavered fangs.
Never have Buck seen such dogs. It seemed as though their bones would burst through their skin. They were mere skeletons, draped loose in draggled hide, with blazing eyes and slavered fangs.
Mighty.
Mighty.
Mighty. Mighty. Mighty.
Mighty. Mighty. Mighty.
A thing is mighty big when time and distance cannot shrink it.
A thing is mighty big when time and distance cannot scream it.
The mighty waves pushed me underwater.
The mighty wave pushed me underwater.
The more I consider this mighty tale, the more do I deplore my inability to express it.
The more I consider this mighty tale, the more do I deplore my inability to express it.
Madam.
Madam.
Madam, all stories, if continued far enough, end in death, and he is no true storyteller who would keep that from you.
Madam, all story, if continued far enough, and in death, and he is no true storyteller who would keep that from you.
Excuse me, madam, can I take your coat?
Excuse me, madam, can I take your coat?
County.
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 Our competition for American business is no longer in the next county or the next state, it's around the world.
Our competition for American business is no longer in the next country, county, or next state. It's around the world.
They played games at the county fair.
They played game at the county fair.
Dearest Gwendolyn, there is no reason why I should make a secret of it to you. Our little county newspaper is sure to chronicle the fact next week. Dearest Gwendolyn, there is no reason why I should make a secret of it to you. Our little county newspaper is sure to chronicle the fact next week. Trade.
Trade.
I wouldn't trade the experiences I've had over the past 36 years for anything.
I wouldn't trade the experience I had over the past 36 years for everything.
She thought it was a fair trade and agreed to it.
He thought it was a fair trade and agreed to it.
Adjust.
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 Adjust. Adjust. Adjust.
Adjust. Adjust. Adjust.
When it is obvious that the goals cannot be reached, don't adjust the goals, adjust the action steps.
When it obviously that the goal cannot be reached, don't adjust the goal, adjust the action step.
Adjust your seatbelt if it feels uncomfortable.
Adjust your seatbelt if it feels uncomfortable.
When they began to blindfold him, he himself adjusted the knot which hurt the back of his head.
When they began to blindfold him, he himself adjusted the knot back of his head.
Military.
Military.
The military don't start wars. Politicians start wars.
The military don't start war. Politicians start war.
He served as an officer in the military for 5 years.
He served as an officer in the military for 5 years.
There's a military post 300 miles from here.
There are military posts 300 miles from here.
Mix.
Mix.
Mix. Mix. Mix.
Mix. Mix. Mix.
Once we decided to do a tower in New York, it had to say something about our group, reflecting the mix of modernity and creativity in our organization.
Once we decided to do a tower in New York, it had to say something about our group, reflecting the mix of the modernity and creative in our organization.
Mix red and blue together to make purple.
Mix red and blue together to make a purple.
Don't you mix yourself up in this affair.
Don't you mix yourself up in this affair.
Process.
Process.
If you can't describe what you are doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing.
If you can't describe what you are doing as a process, you don't know what you are doing.
The whole process was very simple and stress-free.
The whole process was very simple and stress-free.
Let this process go on for millions on millions of years.
Let this process go on for million of the year.
Pitch.
Pitch.
Pitch. Pitch. Pitch.
Pitch. Pitch. Pitch.
For me, winning isn't just about lifting the cup, the trophy, it's about giving your maximum, on and off the pitch.
For me, winning isn't just about lifting the cup, the trophy, it's about giving your maximum, on and off the pitch.
Pitch the ball, so I can practice batting.
Pitch the ball, so I can practice batting.
Stent was giving directions in a clear, high-pitched voice.
Strategy was giving direction in the clear, high-pitched voice.
Measure.
Measure.
Measure. Measure. Measure.
Measure. Measure. Measure.
I do know one thing about me, I don't measure myself by others' expectations or let others define my worth.
I do know one thing about me. I don't measure myself by one of others' expectation or let others define my worth.
The seamstress had to measure my waist and shoulders.
The seam master had to measure my waist and shoulder.
Reflect.
Deflect.
Reflect. Reflect. Reflect.
Deflect. Deflect. Deflect.
How we think shows through in how we act. Attitudes are mirrors of the mind. They reflect thinking.
How we think shows through in how we act. Attitudes are mirrors of the mind. They are reflected in.
I reflect on my day as I write in my journal.
I reflect on my day as I write in my journal.
I felt the need to reflect on my problem and plan out my course for the next day.
I felt the need to reflect on my problem and plan out my course for the next day.
Collection.
Collection.
Collection. Collection. Collection.
Collection. Collection. Collection.
Science is not a collection of facts, it is a process of discovery.
Science is not a collection of the facts, it's a process of discovery.
He showed me his collection of comic books.
She showed me his collection of the comic book.
You see, I am fond of collecting certain facts, and, would you believe, I even copy anecdotes of a certain sort from newspapers and books, and I've already got a fine collection.
You see, I'm fond of collection certain facts, and would you believe I copy episodes of the certain sort of newspaper and books, and I've already got a bind collection.
Cave.
Cave.
Cave. Cave. Cave.
Cave. Cave. Cave.
I'd rather live in a cave with a view of a palace than live in a palace with a view of a cave.
I'd rather live in the cave with the view of the palace than live in the palace with the view of the cave.
The explorers ventured into the large, dark cave.
The explorer ventured into a large, dark cave.
Mother Wolf lay with her big gray nose dropped across her 4 tumbling, squealing cubs, and the moon shone into the mouth of the cave where they all lived. Mother Wolf lay with her big gray nose dropped across her 4 tumbling, squealing cubs, and the moon shone into the mouth of the cave where they all lived. Goldfish.
Goldfish.
Goldfish. Goldfish. Goldfish.
Goldfish. Goldfish. Goldfish.
I won a goldfish as a prize at the fair.
I won the goldfish as a prize at the fair.
Relic.
Lily.
Relic. Relic. Relic.
Lily. Lily. Lily.
Any relic of the dead is precious if they were valued living.
Any relic of dead is precious if they are valuable living.
The stone axe in the museum is a relic of ancient times.
The stone axe in the museum is a relic of ancient time.
Mrs. Thatcher recognized the ribbon and cried over it. She said it was the last relic she should ever have of her child.
Mr. Charlie recognized the ribbon and cried over it. She said it was the last relic she would ever have of the child.
Stride.
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 I take things in stride, go with the flow.
I take a thing in stride, go with the flow.
Even though we called his name, he continued to stride down the hallway.
Even though we called his name, he continued to stride down the hallway.
Mr. Bumble walked on with long strides.
Mr. Bumble walked on with a long stride.
Command.
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 To command is to serve, nothing more and nothing less.
The command to serve, nothing more and nothing less.
I command you to stop this intolerable behavior.
I command you stop this intolerant behavior. Intolerant behavior.
None obeyed the command to kneel.
None obeyed the command to kneel.
Grasp.
Grab.
Grasp. Grasp. Grasp.
Grab. Grab. Grab.
It's hard for me to grasp the concept of somebody being nervous when I'm talking to them.
It's hard for me to grasp the concept of somebody being nervous when I taking to them.
They grasp each other's hands as they walk into the room.
They grab each other's hand as they walk into the room.
He took 2 swift steps to the whip, but before he could grasp it there was a wild clatter of steps upon the stairs, the heavy hall door banged, and from the window we could see Mr. James Windybank running at the top of his speed down the road. He took 2 swift steps to the whip, but before he could grasp it there was a wild clatter of steps upon the stairs, the heavy hall door banged, and from the window we could see Mr. James Windybank running at the top of his speed down the road. Reserve.
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 The only real security that a man can have in this world is a reserve of knowledge, experience and ability.
The One in your security that a man can have in the world is the reserve of the knowledge, experience, and ability.
I tried to reserve a table at the restaurant, but they were already full.
I tried to reserve a table at the restaurant, but they were already full.
I will give you without reserve the reports that have reached me since I have been here in my own house.
I will give you without reserve the reports that have reached me since I have been here in my own house.
Heave.
Heave.
Heave. Heave. Heave.
Heave. Heave. Heave.
Presidential campaigns are exhausting. Once they're over, we all heave a sigh of relief that we have our lives back. The constant emails and news reports no longer harangue us, and the topic even turns at times to something else entirely.
Presidential campaigns are exhausting. Once they're over, we are having a sign of relief that we have our life back. We constant email and news reports no longer hang over us, and the topic even turns at times to something else entirely.
He quickly gave up after trying to heave the heavy weight above his head.
He kicked the cable after trying to have the heavy weight above his head.
Troop.
Troop.
Troop. Troop. Troop.
Troop. Troop. Troop.
Show me a poorly uniformed troop and I'll show you a poorly uniformed leader.
Show me poorly uniformed troop and I will show you poorly uniformed leader.
We were in the same troop in the army.
We were in the same troop in the army.
Hut.
Hut.
Hut. Hut. Hut.
Hut. Hut. Hut.
My dad grew up in a mud hut and studied by candlelight.
My dad grew up in the mud hut and studied by candlelight.
We stayed in a hut on the tiny island.
We stayed in the hut on the tiny island.
A plainsman who lives in a hut knows only the four walls of his hut.
The poor man who lives in the hut knows only the four walls in his hut.
Furniture.
Furniture.
Furniture. Furniture. Furniture.
Furniture. Furniture. Furniture.
I look at every piece of furniture and every object as an individual sculpture.
I look at every piece of the furniture and every object as an individual sculpture.
The couple bought new furniture after moving into a new home.
The couple bought new furniture after moving into a new home.